Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. Today we'll be doing an ASMR reading of The Fellowship of the Lord of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Lord of the Rings, Part 1. As you can see, I am literally skipping right through the prologue because I'm just a bit too lazy to read all of that. But I will eventually get to it.
Hello, you guys.
Yeah, so we're just gonna
Welcome
get going.
Going to be
I'm really
reading
excited. I hope you are
Fellowship
too.
of the Ring,
I
Lord
hope
of the Rings.
this helps you relax, fall asleep, and just, go about
Book 1,
the napping
Long-Expected
business.
Party, Chapter 1.
Alright then.
When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would be... Let's do that again, sorry. That's better. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would be shortly celebrating his 111st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Bilbo was very rich and very peculiar, and had been the wonder of Shire for 60 years, ever since his remarkable disappearance and unexpected return. The riches he had brought back from his travels had now become a local legend, and it was popularly believed, whatever the odd folk might say, that the word at Bag End was full of tunnels stuffed with treasure. And if that was not enough for fame, there was also his prolonged vigour to marvel at. Time wore on, but it seemed to have little effect on Mr. Baggins. At 90, he was much the same as at 50. And if that was not enough for fame, there was also his prolonged vigour to marvel at. The time wore on, but seemed to have little effect on Mr. Baggins. At 90, he was much the same as at 50. At 99, he began to call him well preserved, but unchanged would have been nearer the mark. There were some that shook their heads and thought this was too much of a good thing. It seemed unfair that anyone should possess apparently perpetual youth, as well as reputedly inexhaustible wealth. It will have to be paid for, they said. It isn't natural, and trouble will come of it. But so far trouble had not come, and Mr. Baggins was generous with his money. Most people were willing to forgive him his oddities and his good fortune. He remained on visiting terms with his relatives, except, of course, the Sackville Bagginses, and he had many devoted admirers among the hobbits of poor and unimportant families, but he had no close friends until some of his younger cousins began to grow up. The eldest of these, and Mr. Bilbo's favourites, was Mr. Frodo Baggins. When Bilbo was 99, he adopted Frodo as his heir and brought him to live at Bag End, and the hopes of the Sackville Baggins were finally dashed. Bilbo and Frodo happened to have the same birthday, September 22nd. "You had better come and live here, Frodo, my lad," said Bilbo one day, "and then we can celebrate our birthday parties comfortably together. At the time, Frodo was still in his tweens, as hobbits called the irresponsible twinties. Twinties. Between childhood and becoming age of 33. 12 more years passed. Each year, the Baggins had given very lively combined birthday parties at Bag End, but now it was understood that something quite exceptional was being planned for that autumn. Bilbo was going to be 11-1. A rather curious number and a very respectable age for a hobbit. The old Took himself had only reached 130, and Frodo was going to be 33. 33, an important number, the date of his coming of age. Tongues began to wag in Hobbiton and Bayweather, and the rumour of the coming event travelled all over Shire. The history and character of Mr. Bilbo Baggins becomes once again the chief topic of conversation. The elder folk suddenly found their reminiscence in welcome demand. No one had a more attentive audience than old Ham Gumgee, commonly known as the Gaffer. He held forth at the Ivy Bush, a small inn at the Bayweather Road, and he spoke with some authority, for he had tended the garden at Bag End for 40 years, and had helped old Holman in the same job before that. Now that he was himself growing old and stiff in the joints, the job was mainly carried on by his youngest son, Sam Gamgee. Both father and son were on very friendly terms with Bilbo and Frodo. They lived on the hill itself, in number 3 Bagshot Row, just below Bag End. A very nice, well-spoken, gentle hobbit is Mr. Bilbo, as I've always said, the Gaffer declared. With perfect truth, for Bilbo was very polite to him, calling him Master Hamfist, and consulting him constantly upon the growing of vegetables and the matter of roots, especially potatoes. The Gaffer was recognized as the leading authority by all in the neighborhood, including himself. But what about this Frodo that lives with him? Asked the old Noaks of Braywater. Baggins is his name, but he's more than half a brandybuck, they say. It beats me why any Baggins of Hobbiton should go looking for a wife away there in Buckland, where folks are super queer. And no wonder they're queer, but in Daddy Two-Foot, the Gaffer next door, neighbour, if they live on the wrong side of the Brandywine River and right agin the old forest, that's a dark, bad place, if half the tales be true. You're right, Dad, said the Gaffer. Not that the brandybucks of Buckland live in the old forest, but they're a queer breed, seemingly. They fool about with boats on that big river, and that isn't natural. Small wonder that trouble come of it, I say. But be that as it may, Mr. Frodo, it is as nice as a young hobbit as you could wish to meet. Very much like Mr. Bilbo, in more than books, in more than looks. Oh, God.
So I had a much needed green tea break.
After all this, father was a Baggins, a decent, respectable hobbit, was Mr. Drogo Baggins. There was never much to tell of him till he was drowned Drowned, said several voices. They had heard this and other darker rumours before, of course, but hobbits have a passion for family history, and they were ready to hear it again. Well, they say, said the gaffer. You see, Mr. Drogo, he married poor Miss Primula Brandybuck. She was our Mr. Bilbo's first cousin on the mother's side, her mother being the youngest of the old Took's daughter. And Mr. Drogo was his second cousin, so Mr. Frodo is his first and second cousin, once removed either way, as the saying is, if you follow me. And Mr. Drogo was staying at Brandy Hall with his father-in-law, old Master Gord Backdock, as they often did after his marriage, him being partial to his victuals, and old Gobberduck keeping a mighty generous table, and he went out eating on brandy, and he and his wife were drowned, and poor Mr. Frodo, only a child and all. I've heard they went on the water after dinner, in the moonlight, said old Nooks, and it was Drogo's height as sunk the boat. It was Drogo's height. Oh, it was Drogo's weight as sunk the boat. And I heard she pushed him in, and he pulled her in after him, said Sandyman, the Hobbiton Miller. You shouldn't listen to all you hear, Sandyman, said the gaffer. Who did not match like the miller? There isn't no call to taking of pushing and pulling. Boats are quite tricky enough for those that sit without looking further for the cause of trouble. Anyway, there was this Mr. Frodo, left as an orphan and stranded, as you might say, among these queer baglanders, being brought up anyhow in Brandy Hall, a regular warren, by all accounts. Old Master Gorbadoc never had fewer than a couple of 100 relations in the place. Mr. Bilbo never did a kinder deed than when he brought the Mr. Bilbo never did a kinder deed than when he brought the lad back to live among decent folk. But I reckon it was a nasty knock for those Sackville Baggins. They thought they were going to get Bag End that time when he went off and was thought to be dead, and the living, and never looking a day older, bless him. And suddenly he produces an heir, and he was all the papers made out proper. The Sackville Baggins won't never see the inside Bag End now, or is it to be hopped not? There's a tidy bit of money tucked away up there, I hear tell, said a stranger, a visitor on business from Michael Delving in the West Farting. All the top of your hill is full of tunnels, bagged with chests of gold and silver and jewels, what I have heard. Then you've heard more than I can speak to, answered the gaffer. I know nothing about jewels. Mr. Bilbo is free with his money, and there seems no lack of it, but I know of no tunnel making. I saw Mr. Bilbo when he came back, a matter of 60 years ago, when I was a lad, and not long came pretense to old Holman, him being my dad's cousin, but he had me hung up, making up things. He had me up at Bag End helping him to keep folks from trampling all over the garden while the sale was on. And in the middle of it, Mr. Bilbo comes up the hill with a pony and some mighty big bangs, a couple of chests. I don't doubt they were mostly full of treasure he had picked up in foreign parts, where the mountains of gold, they say, but there wasn't enough to fill tunnels. But my lad Sam say, but there wasn't enough to fill tunnels. But my lad Sam will know more about that. He is in and out of Bagland, crazy about stories of the old days. He is, and he listens to all Mr. Bilbo's tales, and Mr. Bilbo has learned him his letters, meaning no harm. Mark you, and I hope no harm will come of it. And dragons, I says to him, cabbages and potatoes are better for me and you. Don't go getting mixed up in the business of your betters, or you'll land in trouble too big for you, I says to him. And I might say it to others, he added with a look at the stranger and the miller. But the gaffer did not convince his audience. The legend of Bilbo's wealth was now too firmly fixed in the minds of the younger generation of hobbits. But he has likely enough been adding to what he brought at first, argued the miller, voicing common opinion. He's often away from home, and look at the outlandish folk that visit him. Dwarfs coming at night, and the old wandering conjurer, Grandolph and all. You say what you like, Gaffer, but Bag End, a queer place, and its folk are queerer, and you can say what you like about what you know more than you do of boating. Mr. Sandyman, retorted the gaffer, disliking the miller, and even more than usual. If that's being queer, then we could do with a bit more queerness in these parts. There's some not far away that wouldn't offer a pint of beer to a friend if they lived in a hole with golden walks, but they do things proper at Bag End. Our Sam says that everyone's going to be invited to the party, and there's going to be presents. Mark you, presents for all, this very month as is. That very month was September, and as fine as you could ask. A day or two later, a rumour, probably started by the knowledgeable Sam, was spread about that there were going to be fireworks. Fireworks, what is more, such as had not been seen in the Shire for nigh on 3. Content to die. Days passed, and the day grew near. The odd-looking wagon, laden with odd-looking packages, rolled into Hobbiton one evening and toiled up the hill to Bag End. The startled hobbits peered out of lambered doors, the gape at it, as driven by outlandish folk singing strange songs, dwarfs with the long beard and deep hoods. A few of them remained at Bag End. At the end of second week in September, a cart came in through Baywater from the direction of Brandywine. The bridge in broad daylight. An old man was driving it all alone. He wore a tall pointed blue hat, a long grey cloak, and a silver scarf. He had a long white beard and bushy eyebrows that stuck out beyond the brim of his hat. Small hobbit children ran after the cart all through Hobbiton, and right up the hill it had a cargo of fireworks. As they rightly guessed, at Bilbo's front door the old man began to unload. They were great bundles of fireworks of all sorts and shapes, each labelled with a large red G and the elf Rin. That was Gandalf's mark, of course, and the old man was Gandalf the wizard, whose fame in the Shire was due mainly to his skill with fires. Shire was due mainly to his skill with fires, smokes, and lights. His real business was far more difficult and dangerous, but the Shire folk knew nothing about it. To them, he was just one of the attractions at the party, hence the excitement of the Hobbit children. "G for grand," they shouted, and the old man smiled. They knew him by sight, though he only appeared in Hobbiton occasionally and never stopped long, but neither they nor any but the eldest of their elders had seen one of his firework displays. They now belonged to a legendary past. When the old man, helped by Mr. Bilbo and some dwarfs, had finished unloading, Bilbo gave a few pennies away, but not a single squab or cracker was forthcoming. Not a single squab or cracker was forthcoming, to the disappointment of the onlookers. "Run away now," said Gandalf. "You will get plenty when the time comes." Then he disappeared inside with Bilbo, and the door was shut. The young hobbits stared in vain for a while. They feared that the party would never come. Instead, Bag End, Bilbo and Gandalf were sitting at the open window of a small room, looking out on the garden. Okay, guys, I think I am going to call it a night, and I hope we're just gonna mark it. This is how I do it. I hope you've enjoyed this reading, and I hope this helps you fall asleep. If you are taking a night sleep or you're taking a day nap, I hope this helps you fall asleep. And yeah, stay tuned for more. I'm not going to tell you what page we're on, but yeah, we're on that page, and we'll see you soon. And trying to get this to focus. It won't focus. Anyway, like I said, I hope you guys really enjoyed this ASMR reading of The Ring, and it was literally just the first part. Like, I literally just started. Good night. So, and I'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's Jessica Mahoney, and today we'll be doing a reading from The Hobbit. No, sorry, it's not The Hobbit, it's The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. So we're just going to pick up where we left off. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. What are we going to read? Was literally trying to find where I had left off, or Inside Bag
actually
End,
begun.
Bilbo and
So here
Gandalf were
goes.
sitting at the open window in a small room looking out west on the garden. The late afternoon was bright and peaceful. The flowers
Here,
glowed
and
red
honestly, a
and
little bit
golden.
too serious,
Snapdragons
but
and
it gets
sunflowers
smoother
and
towards the end.
Inside Bag End, Bilbo and Gandalf were sitting at the open window of a small room looking out west on the garden. The late afternoon was bright and peaceful. Let me just move this because it's my book marker. Anyway, where were we? Flowers glowed red and golden, snapdragons and sunflowers and nasturtiums trailing over the turf walls and peeping in the round windows. How bright your garden looks, said Gandalf. Yes, said Bilbo. I'm very fond indeed of it, and of all the deer and old Shire. But I think I need a holiday. Let's move that again. But I think I need a holiday. Do you mean to go on with your plan then? I do. I made up my mind months ago, and I haven't changed it. Very well. It's no good saying any more. Stick to your plan, the whole plan, mind, and I hope it will turn out for the best for you and for all of us. I hope so. Anyway, I mean to enjoy myself on Thursday and have my little joke. Who will laugh, I wonder, said Gandalf. Shaking his head, we shall see, said Bilbo. The next day, more carts rolled up the... The next day... Oof. Should I stop? The next day, more carts rolled up the hill, and still more carts. There might have been some grumbling about dealing locally, but that very week orders began to pour out of Bag End for every kind of provision, commodity, or luxury that could be obtained in Hobbiton or Bayswater or anywhere in the neighbourhood. People became enthusiastic, and they began to tick off the days on the calendar, and they watched eagerly for the postman, hoping for invitations. Before the long invitations began pouring out, and the Hobbiton post office was blocked, the Bayswater post office was snowed under, and the voluntary assistant postmen were called for. There was a constant stream of them going up the hill, carrying hundreds of polite invitations on thank you, I shall certainly come. A notice appeared on the gate at Bag End. No admittance except on party basis. Even those who had or pretended to have party-based business were seldom allowed inside. Bilbo was busy writing invitations, ticking off answers, packing up presents, and making some private preparations of his own. From the time of Gandalf's arrival, he remained hidden from view. On the morning the hobbits woke to find the large field south of Bilbo's front door, covered with ropes and poles for tents and pavilions. A special entrance that was cut into the bank were built there. A special entrance was cut into the bank leading to the road. Wide steps and large white gate were built there. The 3 hobbit families of Bagshot Row adjoining the field were intensely interested and generally envied. The old gaffer, Gamgee, stopped even pretending to work in his garden. The tents began to go up. There was especially a large pavilion so big that the tree that grew in the field was right inside it and stood proudly near the end and the head of the chief table. Lanterns were hung on all its branches, more promising still to the hobbit's mind. An enormous open-air kitchen was erected on the north corner of the field. A draught of hooks from every inn and eating house for miles around arrived to supplement the dwarfs and other odd folk that were quartered at Bag End. Excitement rose to its height. Then the weather clouded over. That was on Wednesday. The eve of the party, anxiety was intense. Then Thursday, September the 22nd, actually dawned. The sun got up, the clouds vanished, flags were unfurled, and the fun began. Bilbo Baggins called it a party, but it was really a variety of entertainments rolled into one. Practically everybody living near was invited. A very few were overlooked by accident. Okay, I think we're going to end there today. And okay, it's only but as they turned up all the same, that did not matter. Many people from other parts of the Shire were also asked, and there were even a few from inside the borders. Bilbo met the guests and additions to the new White Gate in person. He gave away presents to all the sundry. The latter were those who went out again by a back way and came in again by the gate. Hobbits gave presents to other people on their own birthdays, not very expensive ones as a rule, and not very expensive ones, so as a rule, and not so lavishly on this occasion. But it was not a bad system. Actually, in Hobbiton and Bayweather, every day in the year was someone's birthday, so that every hobbit in those parts had a fair change of at least one present and at least 1 week. But they never got tired of them. On this occasion, the presents were usually good. The Hobbit children were excited for that. The Hobbit children were so excited that for a while they almost forgot about eating. There were toys like that of which they had never seen before, all beautiful and some obviously magical. Many of them had indeed been ordered a year before and had come all the way from the mountain and from Dale, and were real dwarf make. When every guest had been welcomed and was finally inside the gate, there were songs, dances, music, games, and of course food and drink. There were 3 official meals: lunch, tea, and dinner or supper. But lunch and tea were marked chiefly by the fact that those times all the guests were sitting down and eating together. At other times were merely lots of people eating and drinking continuously from 11 until 60:30 when the fireworks started. The fireworks were by Gandalf. They were not only brought by him, but designed and made by him, and the special effects, set pieces, and flights of rockets were let off by him. But there was also a generous distribution of squibs, crackers, baccaracas, Yes. Yeah, no. Just sit like this. But there was also a generous distribution of squibs, crackers, baccarappas, sparklers, torches, dwarf-like candles, elf fountains, goblin barkers, and thunderclaps. They were all superb. The art of Gandalf improved with age. There were rockets like a flight of scintillating. What? I'm quite sure it's scintillating. There were rockets like a flight of scintillating birds singing with sweet voices, and there were green trees with trunks of dark smoke. The leaves opened like a whole spring unfolding in a moment, and their shining branches dropped glowing flowers down upon the astonished hobbits, disappearing with a sweet scent before they touched their upturned faces. There were fountains of butterflies that flew glittering into the trees. There were pillars of coloured fires that rose and turned into eagles or sailing ships or fan lakhs of flying swans. There was red thunderstorm and shower of yellow rain. There was forest of silver spears that sprung suddenly into the air with a yell like an embattled army, and came down into the water with a hiss like 100 hot snakes. And there was also one last surprise, in honor of Bilbo. In honor of Bilbo, and it startled the hobbits exceedingly. As Gandalf intended, the lights went out, a great smoke went up, it shaped itself like a mountain seen on the distance and began to glow at the summit. It spouted green and scarlet flames. Out flew a red golden dragon, not life-size, but terribly lifelike. Fire came from his jaws, and his eyes glared down. There was a roar, and he wheezed 3 times over the heads of the crowd. They were all ducked, and many fell flat on their faces. The dragon passed like an express train, turned a somersault, and burst over Baywater with deafening explosion. "That is the signal for supper," said Bilbo. The pain and the alarm vanished at once, and the prostrate hobbits leaped onto their feet. There was a splendid supper for everyone, that is, except those invited to the special family dinner party. This was held at the great pavilion with the tree. The invitations were limited to 12 dozen, a number also called by the hobbits 1 gross. Though the word was not considered proper to use of people, and the guests were selected from all the families which Bilbo and Frodo were related, with the addition of a few special unrelated friends such as Gandalf. Many young hobbits were included, and the present by parental permission, for hobbits were easygoing with their children in the matter of sitting up late, especially when there was a chance of getting them a free meal. Bringing up young hobbits took a lot of provender. Okay, guys, so I think we're going to call it a day or a night, or whatever time it is that you're watching this. And we're going to continue soon. And for now, I'll see you soon. See you soon. Okay, ciao. Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. Today we'll be reading Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Lord of the Rings Part 1. So, I was literally trying to remember where I had left off earlier, as usual. But yeah, I finally found the rhythm of it all, and let's just get into it. And I hope you enjoy this, and I hope it helps you fall asleep. And brandybucks, there were various grubs. Always so slow in the beginning, but momentum builds up. There were many Bagginses and Boffins, and also many Tooks and Brandybucks. There were various grubs, relations of Bilbo Baggins' grandmother, and various chubs, connection of his Took grandfather, and a selection of Booroses, Bulgers, Brace Giddles, Brockhouses, Good Bodies, Hornblowers, and Proudfoots. Some of these were only very distantly connected with Bilbo, and some had hardly ever distantly connected with Bilbo, and some had hardly ever been the Hobbiton before. As they lived in remote corners of the Shire, the Sackville Baggins were not forgotten. Otto and his wife, Lobela, were present. They disliked Bilbo and deserted Frodo, but so magnificent was the invitation card, written in golden ink, that they had felt it impossible to refuse. Besides their cousin, Bilbo had been specializing in food for many years, and his table had a high reputation. All the 144 guests expected a pleasant feast, though they rather dreaded the after-dinner speech and their host, an inevitable item. He was liable to drag on bits of what he called poetry, and sometimes after a glass or two would allude to the absurd adventures of his mysterious journey. The guests were not disappointed. They had very pleasant, fast, and in fact an engrossing entertainment, rich, abundant, varied, and prolonged. The purchase of provisions fell almost to nothing throughout the district of the ensuing weeks. But as Bilbo's catering had depleted the stocks of most of the stores, cellars and warehouses for mills around, that did not matter much. After the feast, more or less, came the speech. Most of the company were, however, now in tolerant moods, at that delightful stage what they called filling up the corners. They were sipping their favourite drinks and nibbling at their favourite dainties, and their fears were forgotten. They were prepared to listen to anything and to cheer at every full stop. "My dear people," began Bilbo, raising his place. "Hear, hear, hear," they shouted, and kept on repeating it in chorus. Seeming reluctant to follow their own advice, Bilbo left his place and went and stood on a chair under an illuminated tree. The light of the lanterns fell in his beaming face. The golden buttons shone on his embroidered silk waistcoat. They could all see him standing, waving one hand in the air, the other was in his trouser pocket. "My dear Baggins and Boffins," he began again, "and my dear Tooks and Brandybucks and Crubs and Chubs and Brosses and
Glitches are welcome.
and Burrosses and Hornblowers and Bulgars, Bracegiddles, good bodies, Brockhouses, and proud foots." "Proud feet," shouted an elderly hobbit from the back of the
More glitches.
pavilion. His name, of course, was Proudfoot, and well merited. His feet were large, exceptionally furry, and both were on the table. "Proudfoots," repeated Bilbo. "Also my good Sackville Bagginses, that I would back at last to the back end. Today is my 111th birthday. I am 11-1 today. Hooray, hooray, many happy returns," they shouted, and they hammered joyously on the tables. Bilbo was doing splendidly. This was the sort of stuff they liked, short and obvious. I hope you are all enjoying yourselves as much as I am. Defending cheers, cries of yes and no, noises of trumpets and horns, pipes and flutes, and other musical instruments. There were, as had been said, many young hobbits present. Hundreds of musical crackers had been pulled. Most of them bore the mark Dale on them, which did not convey much to most of the hobbits, but they all agreed that they were marvelous crackers, and contained instruments small but perfect, make and enchanting tones. Indeed, the one corner, some of the young Tooks and Brandybucks, supposing Uncle Bilbo to have finished, since he had mainly said all that was necessary, now got up and in prompto orchestra and began merry dance tune. Master Everard, Everard. Master Everard took and Miss Milltot, Millilot. Fuck. Master Everard took. Oh my god. Master Everard took and Miss Millilot Brandybuck got on a table and with the spells in their hands began to dance the spring ring, a pretty dance but rather vigorous. But Bilbo had not finished. Seizing a horn from a youngster nearby, he blew 3 loud hoots. The noise subsided. "I shall not keep you long," he cried. Cheers from all the assembly. Cheers from all the assembly. "I have called you all together for a purpose." Something in the way that he said this. Something in the way that he said this made an impression. There was almost silence, and 1 or 2 of the tooks piked up their ears. And one or two of the ticks pricked up their ears. Indeed, for the three purposes. Indeed, for the three purposes. First of all, tell you that I am immensely fond of all of you, and that 11 years is too short a time to live among such excellent and admirable hobbits. Tremendous outbursts of approval. I don't know half of you, half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve. This was unexpected and rather difficult. There was some scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out and see if it came to a compliment. Secondly, to celebrate my birthday, cheers again, I shall say, our birthday, for it is, of course, also the birthday of my heirs and nephew, Frodo. He comes of age into his inheritance today. Okay. Some perfunctory clapping by the elders, and some loud shouts of "Frodo, Frodo, jolly old Frodo" from the juniors. The Sackful Bagginses scold. I really got myself in a fix here, trying to sound out the word, a very simple word, but hey, yeah. Scholard and wondered what was meant by coming into his inheritance. Together we score 144. Our numbers were chosen to fit this remarkable total. 1 gross, if I may use the expression. No cheers, this was ridiculous. Many of the guests, and especially the Sackful Bagginses, more tongue ties, just doesn't end, were insulted, feeling sure they had only been asked to fill up the required number like goods in a package. 1 gross indeed, vulgar expression. It is also, if you may be allowed to refer to the ancient history, the anniversary of my arrival and my arrival by barrel at Isgaroth on the Long Lake, though the fact that it was my birthday slipped my memory on the occasion. I was only 51 then, and birthdays did not seem so important. The banquet was very splendid. However, though I had a bad cold at the time, I remember and could only say, "Thank you very much." I now repeated more correctly, "Thank you very much for coming to my little party." Obstinate silence. They all feared that a song or some poetry was now imminent, and they were getting bored. Obstinate silence. They all feared that a song or some poetry was now imminent, and they were getting bored. Why couldn't he stop talking and let them drink his health? Why couldn't they stop talking?
I found this particularly funny.
Why couldn't he stop talking and let them drink his health? But Bilbo did not sing or recite. He paused for a moment. Thirdly and finally, he said, I wish to make an announcement. He spoke that last word so loudly and suddenly that people sat up who still could. I regret to announce that, though, as I said, 11 years is far too short a time to spend among you. This is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye. He stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat back speechless. Old Odo Proudfoot removed his feet from the table and stamped there. Then there was a dead silence until suddenly, after several deep breaths, every Biggins boffin took Brandybuck, Grub, Chub, Burrows, Bulger, Bracegirdle, Brockhouse, Goodbody, Holeblower, and Proudfoot began to talk at once. It was generally agreed that the joke was in very bad taste, and more food and drink needed to cure the guests of shock and annoyance. He's mad. I always said so, was probably the most popular comment. Even the Tooks, with a few exceptions, like Bilbo's behavior was absurd. For the moment, most of them took it for granted at his disappearance and nothing more of a ridiculous prank. But old Rory Brandybuck was not so sure. Neither age nor an enormous dinner had clouded his wits, and he said to his daughter-in-law, Esmeralda, "There's something fishy in this, my dear. I believe that Mad Biggins is off again. Silly old fool. But why worry? He hasn't taken the victuals with him." He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine. He called loudly to Frodo to send wine and round. He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine round again. Frodo was the only one present who had said nothing. For some time he had sat silent beside Bilbo's empty chair and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests. But at the same time, he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking, discussing Bilbo Baggins' oddities, past and present, but the sackful Bigginses had already departed in wrath. Okay, so I think we are just going to call it a night or a day or whatever time you are watching, listening to this. And yeah, we're gonna continue, and that's basically the long and short of it. And good night, and I hope this helps you relax and sleep well. Okay, I'll see you soon. Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. We're just going to continue reading
The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is part 1. Yeah. Silence, and one or two of the tooks pricked up their ears. Wow. There was almost silence, and one or two of the ticks pricked up their ears. Indeed, the 3 purposes. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you all, and that 11 to 1 years is too short a time to live amongst such excellent and admirable hobbits. Tremendous outbursts of approval. I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I like less half of you. I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I like less half of you as well as you deserve. This was unexpected, but rather difficult. There was a scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out and see if it came to a compliment. There was some scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out. And see if it came to a compliment. Secondly, to celebrate my birthday, cheers again, I should say our birthday, for it is, of course, also the birthday of my heir nephew, Frodo. He comes of age and into his inheritance today. Some perfunctory clapping by the elders and some loud shouts of Frodo, 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 jolly old Frodo from the juniors. The sackful Bagginses scolded and wondered what was meant by coming into his inheritance. Together we score 144. Your numbers were chosen to fit this remarkable total, and one gross, if I may use the expression, no cheers. This was ridiculous. Many of the guests, especially the sackful Bagginses, were insulted, feeling sure that they had only been asked to fill up the required number like goods in a package. One gross indeed, vulgar expression. It was also, if I may be allowed to refer in ancient history, the anniversary of my arrival by barrel at Esgaroth on the long lake, though the fact that it was my birthday slipping my memory, though the fact that it was my birthday slipped my memory on that occasion. I was only 51 then, and birthdays did not seem so important. The banquet was very splendid, however, though I had a bad cold at the time. I remember and could only say, "Thank you very much." I now repeat it more correctly. Thank you very much for coming to my little party. Obstinate silence. They all feared that a song or some poetry was now imminent, and they were getting bored. Why couldn't he stop talking and let them drink to his health? But Bilbo did nothing. But Bilbo did not sing or recite. He paused for a moment. Thirdly and finally, he said, I wish to make an announcement. He spoke his last word so loudly and suddenly that everyone sat up who still could. I regret to announce that, tough as I said, 11 to 1 years is far too short a time to spend among you. This is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye. He stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. Searching for my best angle, as usual. My nose. The guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat back speechless. Old Odo Proudfoot removed his feet from the table and stamped. Then there was a dead silence until suddenly, after several deep breaths, every Baggins boffin took Brandybuck, Grub, Chubb, Burrows, Bolger, Bracegirdle, Brockhouse, Goodybody, Hornblower, and Proudfoot began to talk at once. It was generally agreed that the joke was in bad taste, and more food and drink were needed to cure the guests of the shock and annoyance. "He's mad. I've always said so," was probably the most popular comment. Even the Tooks, with the few exceptions, thought Bilbo's behavior was absurd. For the moment, most of them took it for granted that his disappearance was nothing more than a ridiculous prank. But old Rory Brandybuck was not so sure. Neither age nor an enormous dinner clouded his wits. And he said to his daughter-in-law Esmeralda, "There's something fishy in this, my dear. I believe that Mad Baggins is off again. Silly old fool. But why worry? He hasn't taken the victuals with him." He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine round again. Frodo was the only one present who had said nothing for some time. He had sat in silence beside Bilbo's empty chair and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty in keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests. But at the same time, he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking, discussing Bilbo Baggins, hobbits past and present. But the sackful Bagginses had already departed in wrath. Frodo did not want to have any more to do with the party. He gave orders for more wine to be served. Then he got up and drained his own glass silently in the health of Bilbo and slipped out of the pavilion. As for Bilbo Baggins, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket. As for Bilbo Baggins, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket, his magic ring that he had kept secret for many years. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by any hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to the hall and stood for a moment, listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and the sounds of merrymaking in other parts of the field. Then he went in. He took off his party clothes, folded up and wrapped it in tissue, his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Okay. He took off his party clothes. Where did I end now? As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by a hobbit. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and was never seen by a hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to his hall, and stood for a moment listening and smiling in the din. He walked briskly back to the hall and stood for a moment listening and smiling to the din in the pavilion. He walked briskly back to his hole He walked briskly back to his hole and stood for a moment listening with a smile and the din in the pavilion. He walked briskly back to his hole and stood for a moment listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and to the sounds of merrymaking in the other parts of the field. Then he went in. He took his party clothes, folded up and wrapped in tissue his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Then he put on quickly some old untidy garments and fastened round his waist a worn leather belt. On it he hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. It's a scabbard, isn't it? We're going to Google that. On it he hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. From a locked drawer, smelling of mothballs, he took out an old cloak and hood. They had been locked up as if they were very precious, but they were so patchy and weather-stained that the original colour could hardly be guessed. But they were so patched and weather-stained that the original colour could hardly be guessed. It might have been dark green. They were rather too large for him. He then went into his study and from a large strong box took out a bundle wrapped in old clothes and a leather-bound manuscript, and also a large bulky envelope. The book and bundle he stuffed into the top of a heavy bag that was standing there, already nearly full. Into the envelope he slipped his golden ring and its fine chain, and then sealed it and addressed it to Frodo. At first he put it on the mantelpiece, but suddenly he removed it and stuck it in his pocket. At the moment the door opened and Gandalf came quickly in. Gandalf. At the moment the door opened and Gandalf came quickly in. "Hullo," said Biblo. "I wondered if you'd turn up." "I'm glad to find you visible," replied the wizard, sitting down in a chair. "I wanted to catch you and have a few final words. I suppose you feel that everything has gone splendidly and according to plan." "Yes, I do," said Bilbo, though that flash was surprising. It quite startled me, let alone the others. A little addition of your own, I suppose?" "It was. You have wisely kept that ring secret all these years, and it seemed to me necessary to give your guests something else that would seem to explain your sudden vanishment." "And would spoil my joke. You are an interfering old busybody," laughed Bilbo. "But I expect you to know the best, as usual. I do, when I know anything. But I don't feel too sure about the whole affair." It was now come to the final point. You have had your joke, and alarmed or offended most of the relations, and given the whole Shire something to talk about for 9 days, or 99 more likely. Are you going any further? "Yes, I am. I feel I need a holiday, a very long holiday, as I have told you before, probably a permanent holiday. I don't expect I shall return. In fact, I don't mean to. And I have made all arrangements. I am old, Gandalf. I don't look it, but I am. I don't look it, but I am beginning to feel it in my heart of hearts." "Well preserved indeed," he snorted. "Why, I feel all thin, sort of stretched, if you know what I mean. Like butter that has been scraped over too much bread. That can't be right. I need a change of something." Gandalf looked curiously and closely at him. No, it does not seem right, he said thoughtfully. No, after all, I believe your plan is probably the best. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see mountains again. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see mountains again, Gandalf. Mountains. And then find somewhere I can rest in peace and quiet without a lot of relatives prying around and a string of confounded visitors hanging on the bell. I might find somewhere where I can finish my book, and I have thought of a nice ending
Just
for
thought
it.
this was so funny,
And I have
and
thought
I just couldn't
and I have thought of a nice ending
contain
for it.
myself with
And
laughter.
he lived happily.
But gotta keep reading.
Okay. And I have thought of a nice ending for it. And he lived happily ever after to the end of his days. Gandalf laughed. I hope he will, but nobody will read the book, however it ends. Oh, they may in years to come. Frodo has read some already. As far as it has gone, you keep an eye on Frodo, won't you? Okay, guys, so I'm just going to leave it there for today. I think we've had a really nice read, and this one was particularly exciting and funny for me, this part. We're still on chapter 1. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I hope it's calming and helping you fall asleep or relax. And I'll see you soon. See you soon for our next reading.
Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Moley, and we are going to continue reading The Fellowship of the Ring, Part 1, Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. We have gotten quite, not that far, but we are making quite a bit of progress in the reading. It's going really nice and smooth. Anyway, I hope wherever you are relaxed and chilled, and I also hope this further helps you relax or fall asleep, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Okay, let's begin. Okay, we're just going to read from the page, which is here. Gandalf laughed. I hope he will, but nobody will read the book, however it ends. Oh, they may, in years to come. Frodo has read some already, as far as it has gone. You'll keep an eye on Frodo, won't you? Yes, I will. 2 eyes, as often as I can spare them. He would come with me, of course. I have asked him. If I ask him. In fact, he offered to once, just before the party, but he does not really want to. Yet I want to see the wild country again before I die, in the mountains, but he is still in love with the Shire, with the woods and the fields and little rivers. He ought to be comfortable here. I'm leaving everything to him, of course, except a few oddments. I hope he'll be happy when he gets used to being on his own. It's time he has his own master now. Everything? Said Gandalf. The ring as well? You agreed to that, you remember? Well, yes, I suppose so, stammered Bilbo. Where is it? In an envelope, if you must know, said Bilbo impatiently. There on the mantelpiece. Well, no. Here it is in my pocket, he hesitated. Isn't that odd now? He said softly to himself. Yet after all, why not? Why shouldn't it stay there? Gandalf looked again, very hard at Bilbo, and there was a gleam in his eyes. I think, Bilbo, he said quietly, I should leave it behind. Don't you want to? Well, yes and no. Now it comes to it. I don't like parting with it at all, I may say, and I don't really see why I should. Why do you want me to? He said, and a curious change came over his voice. It was sharp with suspicion and annoyance. You're always badgering me with my ring, but you have never bothered me about other things that I got on my journey. No, but I had to badger you, said Gandalf. I wanted the truth. It was important. Magic rings are, well, magical, and they are rare and curious. I was professionally interested in your ring, you may say, and I still am. I should like to know where it is. If you go wandering again, also, I think you had it quite long enough. You won't need it any more, Bilbo, unless I am quite mistaken. Bilbo flushed, and there was an angry light in his eyes. His kindly face grew hard. Why not? He cried. Oh, you guys can't see. Where were we? Oh, God. Why not? He cried. And what business is it of yours, anyway, to know what I do with my own things? It's my own. I found it. It came to me. Yes, yes, said Gandalf. But there's no need to get angry. If I am, it's your fault, said Bilbo. It's mine, I tell you. My own precious. My precious. Yes, my precious. The wizard's face remained grave and attentive, and only a flicker in his deep eyes showed that he was startled and indeed alarmed. It has been called that before, he said, but not by you. But I say it now, and why not? Even if Gollum said the same once, it's not his now, but mine, and I shall keep it, I say. Gandalf stood up. He spoke sternly. You will be a fool if you do, Bilbo said. Bilbo. You will be a fool if you do, Bilbo, he said. You make that clearer with every word you say. It has got far too much hold on you. Let it go, and then you can let it go, and then you can go yourself and be free. I'll do as I choose and go as I please, said Bilbo obstinately. Now, my dear hobbit, said Gandalf. All your long life we have been friends, and you owe me something. Come, do as you promised. Give it up. Well, if you want my ring yourself, say so, cried Bilbo. But you won't get it. I won't give my precious away. I tell you. His hand straight to the hilt of his small sword. Gandalf's eyes flashed. It will be my turn to get angry soon, he said. If you say that again, I shall. then you will see Gandalf the Grey uncloaked. He took a step towards the hobbit, and he seemed to grow tall and menacing. His shadow filled the little room. Bilbo backed away to the wall, breathing hard, his hand clutching at his pocket. They stood for a while, facing one another, and the air of the room tingled. Gandalf's eyes remained bent on the hobbit. Slowly, his hands relaxed, and he began to tremble. Okay, so that's, oh my goodness, I just lost the page. Oh, wow, I've really lost the page. Okay, I found it. Okay, so that's what we got time for today. We shall continue, and I will see you tomorrow. I hope that was lovely and gave you some relaxation and a bit of time to rest and chillax. And yeah, good night, and I'll see you soon. Welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be reading, like we did yesterday, the other days anyway, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Lord of the Rings Part 1. I don't know what has come over you, Gandalf,
decided it was snack time, and I love snacking on almonds. I find them particularly delicious. I also like to, honestly, I think they're a bit overcooked, but I do like that vibe. Also, I do enjoy some dates. These are very sweet, but natural sweet, which is amazing. And I just like to combine the two. I find it very much an incredibly delicious, healthy treat. So, just a little snack break. Generally lightly salt the almonds, and I'll have with some dates, and the combination is just utterly incredible. Well, also I do enjoy oranges actually as well. It's just an incredible flavor burst altogether. It's just a feast of delightable sweetness, I'd say. I think. And
Okay.
yeah.
I can't really say oranges are my favourite fruit. Just love fruit in general.
Just going in with fruit bad vibes, I guess. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying so far, and I hope this is relaxing and helping you fall asleep or almost get there, or just relax. Yeah, I just genuinely like fruit, I guess. Actually, I like fruit. I can't actually choose what's the best or anything like that. I just prefer snacking on fruit. It's just so easy anyway, and incredible amount of benefits. I find the whole preparation quite soothing and calming, comfortable. Yeah. Anyway, something strange about cutting
I just never know
each fruit.
when I have it done. Maybe like
In terms of apples, I really do enjoy the red bottom apples. It's pretty much the only ones I eat actually. Red apples, yeah. And I just like to eat them like this, thinly sliced. And they taste the best, in my opinion, with
sounds good.
almonds. Yeah. I'd like to know what strange fruits or foods you guys find delicious. Okay, as you can see, I'm literally eating up my platter. This is my weakness. I just end up eating everything. Yeah, I don't think it's very good manners, but anyway. Just getting it thinly sliced as possible. I do like my apples very thinly sliced. Shame that's a bit of a blooper over there. I'm struggling with that one. And just continuing quite rapidly at this point. I'm finding quite a bit of success in this slicing of apples. Shame my oranges are just plain old boring quarters. But yeah. I mean, what can you do with an orange anyway? It's not much, right? Yeah. So here I am trying to do a bit of an arrangement.
Looking amazing.
That just on my platter. It's not even a platter, it's my cutting board. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of ladies do
I should really eat this one because it's out of shape.
arrangements and like cute situations on there. Yeah, that's a blueberry, shame. I had to eat that one. On the cutting board. I've seen that it's quite aesthetic. I have thousands and thousands and millions of little apple slicings, and quite proud of myself actually that I had the patience to cut all this up. One day I will be able to cut up the oranges in a much better shape, but for now this is what we get, and this is what I get. Anyway, these dates were particularly very, very much delicious, and the sweetness is just beyond my expectations. I don't expect anything that's natural to be this divine sweet, but yeah. Anyway, so here we go. You see my platter. Just simple, humble, plain fruit, which I'm literally just devouring everything, which is just shocking. At this point, I have 2 dates left, but I actually had a whole packet. Okay, there we go. Removing the seeds of each orange, because I do find it quite annoying to eat oranges with the seeds in them. Best remove all those seeds. Yeah, it's really time consuming, but it's got to be done if you want to eat without, well, let's just say it like this, if you want to eat nicely, remove all the seeds. I wonder what you think about my design. Do you think it's lovely? I don't know. It's pretty basic. It's very plain. And I'm eating as I go along. Absolutely everything. Shocking behaviour. This is what I have left of everything. So I actually prefer eating
Almonds are
fruit at night. How ironic is that? Yeah, so I managed to get a few more almonds.
So I just and I
salvage was left.
guys, is it roasting? Is it frying?
My cocaine.
I put them in the pot.
I have 2 days, just imagine. Anyway,
whatever you call it.
yeah, I mean, the morning is nice to eat fruit, but I think I'll just say, okay, these are from Woolies, and I just buy a kilogram for the whole month.
I don't put them in smoothies or anything.
Why do I need to keep going up and down all the time to buy almonds? Just buy it one time and prepare a batch per week. And it's perfect.
For most of the month.
I do enjoy cooked nuts instead of just raw ones, because I just find the flavour a little bit more incredible when it's cooked. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Okay, hello you guys, welcome to my channel. It's Jessica Mahoney. Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. Welcome to my channel. Hi, it's Jessica Mahoney. Welcome to my channel. This is an ASMR reading of Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Lord of the Rings Part 1. Okay, so we've been doing some reading and we have gotten really far. Well, not really, but
We're almost on chapter 2. Okay, so this is what we have left of chapter 1. And we're just going to keep going. Fellowship of the Ring, long expected party. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to where we were yesterday so that you're not completely lost. You have still got the ring in your pocket, said the wizard. Well, so have I, cried Bilbo. And my will, and all the other documents too. I had better take it and deliver it. He had better take it and deliver it for me. That will be safest. No, don't give the ring to me, said Gandalf. Put it in the mantelpiece. It will be safe enough there till Frodo comes. I shall wait for him. Bilbo took out the envelope just as he was about to set it by the clock, his hand jerked back, and the pocket fell on the floor, and the packet fell on the floor. Before he could pick it up, the wizard stopped and seized it and set it in its place. A spasm of anger passed swiftly over the hobbit's face again. Suddenly, it gave way to a look of relief and a laugh. Well, that's that, he said. Now I'm off. They went out into the hall. Bilbo chose his favourite stick from the stand. Then he whistled. 3 dwarves came out of different rooms where they had been busy. Is everything ready? Asked Bilbo. Everything packed and labelled? Everything, they answered. Well, let's start then. He stepped out of the front door. It was a fine night, and the black sky was dotted with stars. He looked up, sniffing the air. What fun to be off again, off on the road with dwarves. This is what I have really been longing for years. Goodbye, he said, looking at his old home and bowing to the door. Goodbye, Gandalf. Goodbye for the present, Bilbo. Take care of yourself, and you're old enough and perhaps wise enough. Take care. I don't care. Don't you worry about me. I am as happy now as I have ever been. And that is saying a great deal. But the time has come. I am being swept off my feet at last, he added, and then in a low voice, as if to himself, he sang softly in the dark. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it begun. Now far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can. Persuading it with eager feet until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet, and whither then I cannot say. He paused, silent for a moment. Then, without another word, he turned away from the lights and voices in the field
in the tent and, followed by his 3 companions, went round in his garden and trotted down the long sloping path. He jumped over a low place in the hedge at the bottom and took to the meadows, passing into the night like a rustle of wind in the grass. Gandalf remained for a while, staring after him into the darkness. "Goodbye, dear Bilbo, until our next meeting," he said softly and went back indoors. Frodo came in soon afterwards and found him sitting in the dark, deep in thought. "Has he gone?" he asked. "Yes," answered Gandalf, "he has gone at last." I hoped until this evening that it was only a joke," said Frodo, "but I knew in my heart that he really meant to go. He always used to joke about serious things. I wish I had come back sooner, just to see him off." "I think really he preferred slipping off quietly in the end," said Gandalf. "Don't be too troubled. He'll be all right now. He left a packet for you. There it is." Frodo took the envelope from the mantelpiece and glanced at it, but did not open it. You'll find his will and all the other documents in there, I think," said the wizard. "You are the master of Bag End now. And also, I fancy, you'll find a golden ring." "The ring!" exclaimed Frodo. "He left me that? I wonder why. Still, it may be useful." "It may, and it may not," said Gandalf. "I should make use of it if I were you. But keep it secret, keep it safe. Now I'm going to bed." As master of Bag End, Frodo felt his painful duty to say goodbye to the guests. Rumours of strange events had by now spread all over the field, but Frodo only say, "No doubt everything will be cleared up in the morning." About midnight, carriages came for the important folk. One by one they rolled away, filled with full but very unsatisfied hobbits. Gardeners came by arrangement and removed in wheelbarrows those that had inadvertently remained behind. Night slowly passed, the sun rose. The hobbits rose rather later. Morning went on. People came and began, by orders, to clear away the pavilions and the tables and the chairs and the spoons and the knives and the bottles and the plates and the lanterns and the flowering shrubs in boxes and the crumbs and the cracker paper, the forgotten bags and gloves and the handkerchiefs and the uneaten food, a very small item. Then a number of other people came without orders, Bagginses and Boffins and Belgers and Tooks and their guests that lived or were staying near. By midday, when even the best fed were out and about again, there was a large crowd at Bag End, uninvited but not unexpected. Frodo was waiting on the step, smiling, but looking rather tired and worried. He welcomed all the callers that he had not much more to say than before. His reply to all inquiries was simply this: "Mr. Bilbo Baggins has gone away, as far as I know, for good. Some of the visitors he invited Some of the visitors he invited to come inside, as Bilbo had left messages for them. Inside the hall there was pulled a large assortment of packages and parcels and small articles of furniture. On every item there was a label tied. There were several labels of this sort. For Ardelot took, for his very own, from Bilbo, an umbrella Ardelot had carried off many unlabelled ones. For Dora Baggins, in memory of a long correspondence with love from Bilbo, on a large waste paper basket, Dora and Drogo's sister, the elder surviving female relative of Bilbo and Frodo, she was 99 and had written reams of good advice for more than half a century. For Milo Burrows, hoping it will be used. For Milo Burrows, hoping it will be useful, from BB, on a gold pen and ink bottle, Milo never answered letters. For Angelica's use, from Uncle Bilbo, and a round convex window. For Angelica's use, from Uncle Bilbo, a round convex mirror. She was a young Baggins, and too obviously considered her face shapely. Right? Doesn't make sense. She was a young Baggins, and too obviously considered her face shapely. For the collection of Hugo Brace Girdle, from a contributor, for the collection of Hugo Brace Girdle, from a contributor on an empty bookcase. Hugo was a great borrower of books and worse than usual at returning them. We all know someone like that. Anyway, for Lobelia, Sackville Baggins, a present on a case of silver spoons. Bilbo believed that she had acquired a good many of his spoons while he was away on his former journey. Lobelia knew that quite well. Lobelia knew that quite well. When she arrived later in the day, she took the point at once, but she also took the spoons. This is only a small selection of the assembled guests. Bilbo's residence had got rather cluttered up with things in the course of his long life. It was a tendency of hobbit halls to get cluttered up, for which the custom of giving so many birthday presents was largely responsible. Not, of course, that the birthday presents were always new. They were one or two old mathons of forgotten uses that had circulated all around the district. But Bilbo had usually given new presents and kept those that he received. The old hole was now being cleared a little. For every one of the various parting gifts and labels written out personally by Bilbo, several had some point or some joke. But, of course, most of the things were given there. Most of the things were given where they would be wanted and welcome. most of the things were given where they would be wanted and welcome. The poorer hobbits, and especially those of Bagshot Row, did very well. Old Gaffer Gamgee got 2 sacks of potatoes, a new spade, a woolen waistcoat, and a bottle of ointment for cracking joints. Old Rory Brandybuck, in return for much hospitality, got a dozen bottles of old Wynyards, strong red wine from the South Farthing, and now quite mature, as it had been laid down by Bilbo's father. Rory quite forgave Bilbo and voted him a capital fellow after the first bottle. There was plenty of everything. Left for Frodo, and of course all the chief treasures, as well as the books, pictures, and more than enough furniture. Where he left his possession. There was, however, no sign, no mention, no money. Of money or jewelry. Not a penny piece or a glass bead was given away. Frodo had a very trying time that afternoon. A false rumour that the whole household was being distributed free spread like wildfire, and before long place was packed with people who had no business there, but could not keep out. Labels got torn off, mixed, and quarrels broke out. Some people tried to do swaps and deals in the hall. And others tried to make off with minor items not addressed to them. Or with anything that seemed unwanted or unwatched. And others tried to make off with minor items not addressed to them, or with anything that seemed unwanted or unwatched.
Okay, so this part of the book took quite a while to read. Also, while I was adjusting and trying to look for my best side. Yeah, anyway.
Wrote the gate was blocked with barrows and hand carts. In the middle of the commotion, the Sackville Bagginses arrived. Frodo had retired for a while and left his friend Merry Brandybuck to keep an eye on things. When Otto loudly demanded to see Frodo, Merry bowed politely. "He is indisposed," he said. "He is resting." "Hiding, you mean," said Lobelia. "Anyway, we want to see him, and we mean to see him. Just go and tell him so." Merry left them a long while in the hall, and they had time to discover their parting gifts of spoons. It did not improve their tempers. Eventually, they shone into the study. Eventually, they shone into the study. Frodo was sitting at a table with a lot of papers in front of him. He looked indisposed to see Sackville Bagginses at any rate, and he stood up, fidgeting with something in his pocket. But he spoke quite politely. The Sackville Bagginses were rather offensive. They began by offering him bad bargain prices as between friends, for that only the things specially directed to Bilbo were being given away. They said the whole affair was very fishy.
Only one thing is clear to me, Sodato, and that is that you are doing exceedingly well out of it. I insist on seeing the will. Otto would have been Bilbo's heir for the adoption of Frodo, but for the adoption of Frodo. He read the will carefully and snorted. It was unfortunately very clear and correct, according to the legal customs of hobbits, which demanded, among other things, 7 signatures of witnesses in red ink. Foiled again, he said. Foiled again, he said to his wife. And after waiting 60 years, spoons, fiddlesticks, he snapped his fingers under Frodo's nose and stumped off. But Lobelia was not so easily got rid of. A little later, Frodo came out of the study to see how things were going on, and found her still about the place, investigating nooks and corners, tapping the floors. He escorted her firmly off to the premises, after he had revealed to her the several small but rather valuable articles that had somehow fallen inside her umbrella. Her face looked as if she was in the throes of thinking out a really gushing. Her face looked as if she was in the throes of thinking out a really crushing parting remark. But all she found to say, turning round on the step, was, "You'll regret it, young fellow. Why didn't you go too? You don't belong here. You're no Baggins. You're a brandybuck." "Did you hear that, Mary? That was an insult, if you like," said Frodo, as he shut the door on her. "It was a compliment," said Mary Buck. "And so, of course, not true." Then they went around the hall and evicted 3 young hobbits, 2 boffins and a bulgar, who were knocking holes in the walls of the cellars. Frodo also had a tussle with young Sancho Proudfoot, old Odo Proudfoot's grandson, who had begun an excavation in the larger pantry where he thought was an echo. The legend of Bilbo's gold excited both curiosity and hope. For legendary gold, mysteriously obtained, if not positively ill-gotten, is, as everyone knows, anyone's for the finding, unless the search is interrupted. When he had overcome Sancho and pushed him out, Frodo collapsed on a chair in the wall. It was time to close the shop. "Mary," he said, "lock the door and don't open it to anyone today. Not even if they bring a battering ram." Then he went to retrieve himself with a belated cup of tea. He had hardly sat down when there came a soft knock at the front door. Lobelia again, most likely, he thought. She must have thought of something really nasty and have come back again to say it. It can wait. He went on with his tea. The knock was repeated, much louder, but he took no notice. Suddenly, the wizard's head appeared at the window. "If you don't let me in, Frodo, I shall blow your door right down your hall and out through the hill," he said. "My dear Gandalf." "Half a minute," cried Frodo, running out the room to the door. Come in. I thought it was Lobelia." "Then I forgive you, but I saw her some time ago. driving a pony trap towards Baywater with a face that would have curdled new milk. She had already nearly curdled me, honestly. She had already nearly curdled me, honestly. I nearly tried on Bilbo's ring. I longed to disappear. Don't do that, said Gandalf, sitting down. Do be careful on that ring, Frodo. In fact, it is partly about that I have come to say a last word. Well, what about it? What do you know already? Only that Bilbo told me. I have heard his story, how he found it and how he used it on his journey, I mean. Which story, I wonder, said Gandalf. Oh, not what he told the dwarfs and put in his book, said Frodo. He told me the true story soon after I came to live here. He said you had pestered him till he told you, so I had better know too. No secrets between us, Frodo, he said, but they are not to go any further. It's mine anyway. That's interesting, said Gandalf. Well, what did you think of it? You mean inventing all that about a present? Well, I thought the true story much more likely, and I couldn't see the point of altering it all. It was very unlike Bilbo to do so anyway, and I thought it rather odd. Okay, I think we're going to end there for tonight or day, whatever time it is that you're watching this. And yeah, we are nearing the end. I should actually just put this here. We're nearing the end of chapter 1. I feel like I should just finish it. But let's continue. I still have quite a bit of reading to get through. So it's good night, good afternoon, good morning, or whatever time it is, wherever you are. And that's all for today. And I'll see you soon. That's all for today. And I'll see you soon.
Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. Welcome to my channel. This is an ASMR reading of The Hobbit. Oh no, sorry. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, Part 1. Enjoy. This one's whispered. Perhaps maybe you could use your earphones.
The point of altering it at all. It was very unlike Bilbo to do so anyway, and I thought it rather odd. So did I. But the odd things may happen to people that have such treasures if they use them. Let it be a warning to you. Be very careful with it. Let it be a warning to you to be very careful with it. It may have other powers than just making you vanish when you wish to. I don't understand, said Frodo. Neither do I, answered the wizard.
I've merely begun to wonder about the ring, especially since last night. No need to worry, but if you take my advice, you'll use it very seldom, or not at all. At least I beg you not to use it in any way that will cause talk or rouse suspicion. I say again, keep it safe and keep it secret. You are very mysterious. What were you afraid of? I am not certain, so I will say no more. I may be able to tell you something when I come back. I am going off at once, so this is goodbye for the present. He got up. At once, cried Frodo. Why? I thought you were staying on for at least a week. I was looking forward to your help. I was looking forward to your help. I didn't mean to, but I have had a change of mind. I may be away for a while, but I will come and see you again as soon as I can. Expect me when you see me. I shall slip in quietly. I shan't often be visiting the Shire openly again. I find that I have become rather unpopular. They say I am a nuisance, a disturber of the peace. Some people actually accusing me of spiriting Bilbo away, or worse. If you want to know, there's supposed to be a plot between you and me to get hold of his wealth. Some people, exclaimed Frodo. You mean Otto and Lobelia? Some people, exclaimed Frodo. You mean Otto and Lobelia? How abominable! I would give them a bag end. And everything else if you could get Bilbo back and go off tramping the country with him. I love the Shire, but I began to wish somehow that I had gone too. I wonder if I shall ever see him again. So do I, said Gandalf, and I wonder many other things. Goodbye now. And I wonder many other things. Goodbye now. Take care of yourself. Look out for me, especially at unlikely times. Goodbye. Guys, we're finally at the end of chapter 1. Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo saw him at the door. Frodo saw him to the door. He gave a final wave of his hand and walked off at a surprising pace. But Frodo thought the old wizard looked unusually bent, almost as if he was carrying a great weight. The evening was closing in, and his cloaked figure quickly vanished into the twilight. Okay, that leaves us with the end of chapter 1. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you soon.